Just at this moment, that mixed blood girl was chosen to be seated beside Lu Shu, and a lot of people in the class shot him a look of envy. I was shocked to find out that this girl, when stood up straight, was just a little shorter than him. And for your information, I am 180 centimeters tall. This girl was rather polite as she sat down and smiled at me and said, "Good day." "How good?" I ask as I subconsciously shoot her down. I do not discriminate as to who I was cynical to, be it gender, age, or looks. The other party was flabbergasted. Her new deskie did not follow the logical order of things. How was she supposed to reply to me? How could she have known how good my day was? However, then I remember that she is a regular person and not mentally ill like I am. From Zhang Shuyi's distress, plus 127 negative emotion points. He introduced himself as Zhang Shuyi transfer from Zhang and decided to announce that he was indeed a guy to clear up the trap confusion. Though me and the rest of the class are just in pure shock and horror, though I think, if I look at him closely, he is a guy. As I glance at his flat chest, I get 78 negative emotions from him, and I get the hint that he has discovered that I was confirming his biological sex. Though to break the silence, I introduce myself as Lu Shu. He is not amused. The scene cuts to later that night. I see cushions on the floor and I think that the Dao Yuan class is going to teach us Dao spells, but the teacher explains she will now pass a document to each of them and that they will need to sign and stamp it with our thumbprint. I'll be honest, this is the most terrifying NDA or non-disclosure agreement I have ever seen. Simply put, all matters related to the Dao Yuan class cannot be made public. If this clause is broken, the signee shall be court-martialed, so leaking information is going to be the same as Militon. The teacher asked us why the Dao Yuan class was formed and if anyone could explain. One classmate suggests it's to learn spells. Though she asks if we know how they choose us all, we are all silent. She then points to me and says, "Let's start with something easy. What is sodium?" and has me answer it. I simply don't know. So I joke and say, sodium is a mythical path to the heavens. This annoys the teacher and she tells me to sit back down and explains that sodium is a chemical element. Though they have accidentally discovered that it has other uses, one is it can be used to measure a blood's response to qi, which is also known as a person's potential. Normally, it is silver, but once the sodium-potassium alloy is exposed to the blood of different people with different potentials, it will change its color, shifting from silver to black. And the more potential a person's blood contains, the blacker the color becomes. There are 6 levels ranging from F to A, but potential does not equal future success and training would still require willpower. She offers that if anyone cannot stand it, then they are free to leave. But then she goes on explaining the class. Dao Yuan class's training is more competitive than your studies from the very beginning. This is the potential of those in our class. I will announce it now. Level A, none. Level B, Liu Li. And she finally gets to level F, Lu Shu. However, I realize this is because I have not eaten the remaining fruit to its limit when they took my blood, so this is not my final potential. And in fact, this is ideal because the men in black would spy on me less. Someone asks if our school has any A-rank students, and his only one is Cao Qingqi, the princess of the school that everyone loves and crushes over. One quick note regarding the translation in this chapter, they call it the marrow washing fruit, but it is still the same remolding fruit. Sorry, back to the story. I think only 4 remolding fruits cost me 5,000, and this system is shitty and rigged. As I win one last time to get another one for Zio, the system alerts me that I have reached the maximum use of the remolding fruit and they are removed from the lottery system and transferred to the regular shopping items. However, I think this means I can now just buy them once I have collected enough negative feelings. I think if they can also be preserved for a long time, I may even be able to sell them and make a fortune. But I don't know how long they can be kept without rotting. Though I knock at Zio's door to give her a fruit, and I tell her I got some snacks for her. I notice it's been 6 hours since the fruit was picked up, but the power it contains is already declining. While I'm in thought, this child bites the fruit and my hand in one go, and then closes the door on my face. I bang on the door and this upsets her, but I say I got 8 more for her, but she complains. Why can't give them to her all at once? Though after eating all those fruits, her physique must be stronger now. Zayo asks what I gave her to eat and I inform her, it is something to improve your physique and remind her she wished to be awakened. Didn't she? She ponders that these fruits are not easy to get and tells me that I don't need to give them to her now, but I mention it's good that she won't get sick so often now that she has eaten them. Trying to get some money back, I roast her about not studying and what if she falls behind attending school and how she will still need to study even if she becomes an awakener. She closes the door and shouts that she will be sleeping. While thinking I had gotten a lot stronger now that I had taken the maximum amount of remolding fruits and lit up 5 stars, I remembered an explanation from class that the force of a F class is 1,200 kilograms, and a D level is double that at 2,400 kilograms. So I will need to get retested to see how much stronger I am. Though now that there is an open slot in the lottery, I bet that it will give me something even better. As I hit the spin button, I pray for no "thank you for playing" spots. Though shockingly, a stinky block appears in the air and falls onto the ground. I decide to poke it and try a small bit to see what it is, and it's one of the worst foods ever, stinky tofu. However, I think, what the hell is this? Remand the system be clear about itself, as it is not some food truck. Though suddenly Zio comes out to the living room due to the stinky smell of the tofu and asks if I just pooped in my pants. Though I informed her that would smell totally different. Okay? She instantly realizes it is stinky tofu, but that it is smelly stinky. So we both try it. Zio thinks it's yummy, but I swear it is just normal stinky tofu. Zio jokes that my superpower is that I can summon food, and she demands pancakes. I ask her if she is considering me as a food truck right now. Though not being able to stop, just like a normal gacha game, I spin again, and after a few 70 spins or so, I realize it is using stinky tofu to replace the "thank you for participating" square. And I ponder, why is it so hard to be awakened? Though Sayo mentions that this stinky tofu is the best she has ever had and even better than those on sale at the store, I realize that I can sell these. So I thank her for the idea. The best part of this idea is even people who don't buy from me give me their negative emotions that I can use to get more spins. Though the uncle next to me asks if he did anything wrong recently, I correct him, telling him that he has helped me and Zayo out a lot and I am very grateful. I offer him some, but he comments, "When did I learn to make stinky tofu and how come it smells so bad?" But he loses its Food Wars style once the taste hits him. He remarks that I am good at making the tofu and it will make a great business. I informed him that I would be selling the stinky tofu starting today and he should continue selling tea eggs. He stopped selling tea eggs in order not to compete with us, and I admired his sacrifice. He mentions how life isn't easy for me and my sister, but it was the right thing for him to do. It's nice that you remembered it, and I smile back at him. Though business for the first day of the stinky tofu is hard due to the smell, I yell that it's 5 yen for each portion of sticky tofu and to buy some and try it out, and they won't regret their decision. Cuts to class. I reflect that selling stinky tofu earns me the money and a huge amount of negative feelings, so it is a win-win business. However, in the class, people started thinking that I would be weeded out of the vital class later, due to me barely making it in. Though Jong, the transfer student next to me, says, "Don't worry," as the teacher Cynthia mentioned persistence and hard work are also very important to one's cultivation. Though I honestly wonder if he is just trying to comfort me. So I decided to jokey with him by asking now that he looks prettier than most girls. Has he gotten any love letters from others? Though I mean from girls, of course, boys don't count. However, my old desk neighbor behind me must have heard this, as I get some negative emotional points, and I think there must be some kind of misunderstanding. Though suddenly the teacher struts in demanding for Lee Qingyu to stand up and come out for a second, and everyone wonders what happened next. Though Lee Qingyu was gone for a while and the class starts to wonder how he is now, but then he appears behind the door and walks back in, though slightly pale. Seems he was told some bad news. Someone from class 2 has been expelled from school because he violated the confidentiality agreement. He was awakened while he was being lectured and then was directly taken away by the people in black. As the class talks about rumors, I think if it is a tradition for the people in black to take awakeners away. However, the class wonders why the kid got expelled. Though it is then I get a genius idea and I mention why leaking our physique rankings could be, and anyone who does that would be expelled, I joke about. I then put on a serious grin and slowly say, "Leaking and expelled," and this mentally tortures the student. He then runs out of his seat telling me to stop talking. The class turned against me asking why I did that, to just provoke him. I think why. But that is simple. It's because all your negative feelings lay the foundation of my success. But they will never know that. The scene changes to it being dusk and the first meeting of the vital class outside of school. The teacher puts a book on a desk and explains that this book only introduces the fundamental knowledge and decides to ask if anyone knows what sodium is. I immediately responded, that sodium must be something that contains sodium. However, I think that she is skipping raising a question, since she worries that we'd provide some stupid answers as she explains everything from the beginning. She explains that 17 months ago, the superpower was awakened, and there is an increasing number of awakeners, and the world has changed. She lifts a vial and points out that this is the sodium-potassium alloy, and when the superpower gets awakened, many metals have new functions. Some may even make destructive weapons. However, she remarks that metal isn't the only thing that changes, and as the superpower gets awakened, more and more materials are bestowed, and all materials will become important to our cultivation. She also mentions that some of us will get a chance in the future to use some of those special metals with weapons, but not everyone will have that chance. Though instantly, I wonder if my lottery system can give me a divine weapon, and I now feel that I've only got a crappy system, which only offers me weird things. The scene cuts back to me at home. I think if I can sell 50 portions of stinky tofu, then I can earn 250 kwan and then treat Xiaoyu to the movies. However, I take a second glance and realize I have gotten so many of them and wonder why it can't give me something else. On my last draw of the night, I finally got something that isn't sticky tofu, and I think it may be a cultivation trick, and I'm super lucky today. As Zia walks into the room, wondering what I'm doing, the glowing papers get absorbed into her. Though she starts screaming, so I tell her to not panic and that it will not harm her. Though she asks, what am I talking about? How can she not panic when she gets attacked by a glowing piece of paper in the chest? However, I tell her to not be afraid and instead feel if there is any difference in her body. I tell her to calm down, concentrate, and tell me what she sees. She mentions that she can see a galaxy in her chest. And there are 7 stars in the galaxy, and the stars look weird, and they are absorbing something like some black holes. I try to give Sayo one of the remaining fruits now that she has awakened. However, the fruit disappears into the air and gets absorbed by my body instead, though Zayo demands her fruit back. However, it seems that Zayoyu's body resists the start fruits now, and she also doesn't have any patterns or markings on her palm as well as I do. Though Zayo slaps me across the face as she is very upset she can't get any more fruits. Though in return, I shove stinky tofu down her throat and yell at her to go away and that my cultivation trick was gone because of her. I wonder if Zayoyu's body can naturally absorb energy, so I ask her if her galaxy tells her to do something. Like for example, singing? She breaks my heart and responds instantly with, no, why do I need to sing? She asks if she is an awakener now. Though I tell her, yes, you are, and to now leave me alone, and I head to my room. I remark, what a crappy system, why doesn't she have to sing the lullaby? But I know I can't let her surpass me, so I know I need to light up the 6th star tonight. The scene switches to the next morning. I finally broke through, but for some reason, I feel no difference. And, well, I think the only logical thing to do is try my hardest to chop off my hand, and I go into it with a full swing shouting, I'll do it. Next, there is a loud clang as the knife shatters, and I think that is awesome, but perhaps I now must have reached level E. However, I decided to bug Zayo super early in the morning to see if anything with her galaxy had changed. However, she regretfully gets up and is upset about being up this early. I tell her to not think about the time as I have lit up 6 stars in my galaxy. She shatters my dreams when she explains that 3 of her planets are completely dark. I started thinking how she is making faster progress than I am, and all she did was sleep. I mention that the tomatoes are ready to be picked and suggest he have noodles for breakfast, and this cheers Zayoyu up. Though as I go around the corner, I see Auntie Lim is having a guest. However, I notice that he looks familiar, and he is the one from the temple fair, and I wonder what is he doing here today. Though a big gust of wind appears, and I look around for the source as it must be from with great power. I wonder why he is staring, me, but I can't help it, and look at his eyes before turning around. I ponder what is he doing, and I silently beg for him to stop looking at me and just go if he has to. On second though, I think I'd better stay out of this trouble and go. The man yells out to wait a second, but I think about what is he doing, and if he wants a fight, I start sweating wondering if I will be able to beat him if he starts fighting with me as he walks up to move. I think he is moving closer, and damn it, I will have to give it a shot. I drop the tomatoes on the ground and turn around to confront him, but in reality, he just reaches out his hand to greet me, and that he is glad to meet me. He thinks he is prepared this time and exclaims, he is so glad to meet me. But naturally, I respond with how glad this makes him have the biggest smirk, and he responds as glad as I am, and he bursts out laughing. But this just confuses me. Though without missing a beat and in a blank expression, I just ask him why he is glad to be here. This shocks the man as he wonders how I could ask that, as it wasn't the conversation he prepared for. I think that the power in this space is so strong, but I can't see it. I can feel it very obviously, and I think it is time to go, as this is not a good place to stay, and I run inside panting. Zayo wonders why I am breathing so heavily, despite it's only been a while since I left, though I wipe the sweat off my forehead and then explain to her to hush as an awakener is living next door to us. Zayo Yu asks if it is the old man. Though I think he is pretty tough, I never felt that way about him. Zayo's face lights up and she says that sounds like a movie scene when an evil boss rests in the countryside and tells me to not worry and that she will work hard on cultivating and protecting me. I just roll my eyes and thank her for doing that as she punches the air on repeat. Though I think all of a sudden he exposed himself today and it seemed like he wanted to expose himself to the old man next door and the man in the ally. Both are suspicious. Cuts to the next day. I pet Zayo on the head and tell her to have a good day before heading out, but she just waves back. I start to wonder if it is okay to only sell stinky tofu, but then I get distracted by the old man practicing his sword while he sends out his mana in every direction, and I remark how powerful he is as he draws into a right side singly hand strike, and with all the pursuer he is generating, I think he must be at least level C, but then I think he has to be level B. Though finally he steals his sword and greets me along with Aunt Lin. I ask him why he is practicing so early in the morning, but he simply responds with swordmanship, but I can see that with my own eyes as well as everyone else could. Though I tell him I need to go and goodbye, the old man tries to get me to wait a second as he smiles at me with a calm expression. The old man interrupts me from going to school and asks if I have a second. I nod and say yes, though regretfully as this appears to be an ad. He holds his sword and tells me to look at it. I tell him it is very long and sharp, though he says he is not kidding and tells me to stay serious while poking me in the chest. He explains that it is just a sword and a sword that simplifies everything in this world and therefore generates all creatures. So, in other words, a wooden sword is like a god. But just like Moses, the sword's skills can alter the world, break mountains, and pursue the essence of nature. He swings his sword and puts it away and exclaims, "Everything comes in one," and asks what I think and if I want to learn it. I break his feelings and tell him, well, I don't, and to excuse me for leaving. I find out his name is Li Xianyi as I get 199 negative emotion points from him. Though the old man exclaims that I am a brat who doesn't know anything, he becomes sad and looks at his sword, saying he doesn't have much time left and he can't let his skills go extinct and has to find an heir. Cuts to me walking to school. But I am thinking, nice try, old man, but he is always talking about having an apprentice all the time, and it sounds like a scam or a pyramid scheme that he is selling. However, I do wonder why is that old man so grumpy as I keep getting negative emotions from him even several minutes later. We then cut to the dining hall at school where I eat my tofu and notice I am still short 3,000 negative emotion points. Suddenly a classmate appears behind me scaring me, but he insists that he needs to show me something. He explains that this video is from a foreign awakener who recorded an ad for a football team. And anyway, this is a great opportunity. He further explains that many enterprises will benign to take advantage of the business value of the awakener. For us, it's a precious opportunity that only exists once in 1,000 years. Finally, I ask him what on earth is he going to do, but he remarks he will just go straight to his parents' company, and they are investing in this new awakener industry. He even mentions that they are hiring awakeners and asks me if I am interested in this offer since he knows that I come from a poor family and mentions it will be a good chance for me. Though I casually ask him if he knows Justin Bieber, but he doesn't. Though I thought he was the one that taught you to be so confident. Though this pisses off Liu Li, and he gives me an impressive 411 negative emotions. Quite the harvest. He turns around asking me how dare I, but the other classmates pitch in making fun of him, mentioning that Liu Li, the young master of the family, Liu, how come he can't nail me down, but he is told to just not take it so seriously. The scene cuts to me eating my celestial fruit. I open my mouth and say, ah, but Zayo is even more upset as this is the second day since she awakened and can't eat any of my fruits anymore and is having a fit. I tell her to stop staring at me as they aren't for her anymore. She starts to wonder where I get so many fruits anyway. I proudly confess that I was selling stinky tofu this morning at the cart and they all surprisingly ran away. Though I just thought, just give me all your negative feelings, you stupid people. As I stuffed my face, I quickly coughed and realized I was choking on this fruit that was supposed to just instantly disappear. and in my sadness, I quit telling Zayo I would join her in watching cartoons. However, as I walk to the TV, I notice that something feels weird. I then see myself in my star system. I feel something flowing inside my body, and particles of light begin being attracted to my hand. Suddenly, 7 stars get lit up from the energy coming out of my chest, and I see that they are rotating around the one that comes last. But for some reason, the brightest star turns dark and purple and turns into a dagger. I remark that damn it, this system is not reliable at all, maybe crap, but even so, I reach out to grab the dagger as it is better than nothing. As I grab it, I slash towards the ground and I notice this dagger has quite the power. I then start spinning the dagger around my fingers on my left hand. I think how the Cas9 corpse dagger comes from my galaxy, so those may be one of my 7 spirits, as there are 7 galaxies. As I sort it around, it feels odd, and this dagger feels more like a letter opener for some reason. Though while I'm in thought, Sayo barges in and pulls on my back. But I am deep in thought if I should learn some skills of the sword, since I know have one, and if I should see the man next door. This time, Sayo fully jumps forward, knocking me over, and I drop the corpse dagger as she wants me to join her in watching cartoons. So I finally give in and tell her, okay, but get off me, please. The scene cuts to men in black running on top of the roofs. However, as they approach their target, they see that it is not a threat, but just a civilian, which turns out to be Aunt Lin, giving out a face of disgust as if she knows about the people on their way to see the old man. Though the leader of this group tells them to remember not to do anything without his order, and he jumps down outside the old man's house while covered in flames. Though I sense his power being next door, so I sneak to the front of the house, as I sense this power is stronger than I have ever felt. I finally see his face, and I can tell that this person is way too strong. Zayo says she wants to take a look, but I duck to avoid the gaze of the man. The man announces to Auntie Lin that he is the less advanced student, Nie Ting, and he is here to visit Mr. Li, the old man. I think that the old man next door is hiding from his enemy, and he maybe has been found out. Though the old man comes to greet the nice Ting and says, sorry for failing to meet you at the door, you distinguished Dragnet, and tells him to come in. Though herring Dragnet, I remember the conversation from class about levels of awakeners. The organization is authorized by the country to gather awakeners, but there are numerous snares but few dragnets. Though the dragnets are fewer than 10 in number, they are powerhouses of level B and above, and the strongest dragnet who ranks at the top is Nie Ting. While sitting, Nie comments that the old man's foundation wouldn't be ruined if his superpower got awakened sooner, but he insists that it is just fate. Nie insists that thanks to the old man's openness, many hardships have been diminished in this world. However, he is tired of the pleasantries and tells Nie to just tell me why he is here. Shockingly, he reaches out his hand and asks if he will join us in our mission during this era when all kinds of superpowers get awakened. Zayo gets on my shoulders against the wall, but insists she can't hear anything using her famous cup technique. I insist that she focuses, but it cuts back to the kneading, explaining that the last position of the dragnet is still vacant and they are waiting for him. This shocks the old man, and he chalks on the water and spits it out. He even says he is just a common old man who gets choked by water while we're holding different ideas. All he wants now is to spend his twilight years in comfort. Nie stands up but admits he may be a bit out of his depth to compare him to the old man, but he has to say that you're the only director of the foundation in this country and many relics haven't been opened, and we guarantee you that if we find more medicines, we will have them delivered as soon as possible, and he hopes that someday the foundation won't be their enemy. He further insists that he only intends to defend his homeland, while the old man wants to protect the whole world. Nie Ting leaves and says, please, take care, and all the men in black finally leave. The next morning, I say goodbye to Sayo, and I greet the old man, Mr. Li. Though he suddenly greets me and jumps into practicing his sword technique, and I mention his sword technique seems pretty awesome. Though he then learns over him and says, how's that? It's awesome, right? Do you want to learn it? Though I told him I do want to, but there is one thing. He insists that there is no problem, and there is nothing that can stop you from learning when he is here. Him knowing I'm a broke child says to just say how much money I need, and he insists that I can tell him. I say it's not a big deal actually, and I was wondering if he was good at academics. And he boasts that they say that I am a well-educated scholar who knows everything. I remark, that is terrific. I told him I would have time to learn the sword technique if he could help me supervise Zhao Yu's study. I call Zhao Yu over to the old man, and I insist that there are no worries as my sister is a super nice girl and practically an angel. Whiz, whiz, whiz. She slowly straightens her poster and asks why she gets called. I point to the old man and explain that she should go to Mr. Lee's place during the day and he will supervise your studies. Xiaoyu gives me 666 points, just like the devil she is, and to dig a further wound, I tell her she won't get any tomatoes with fried eggs in 6 months if she doesn't listen. She slowly turns her head, but Mr. Lee is wondering why she is staring at me as he is also the victim here. As it is time for school, I tell him I am counting on him and I close the door, but suddenly, Xiaoyu and Mr. Lee continue staring at each other. Though thankfully, Auntie Lin is there to bribe her with food, but tells her to take her time as there is still plenty. Mr. Lee wonders how he ended up being a babysitter while being a level B awakener while moving a table. Though he tells Xiao it is time for the class little one. Though looking into her journal, he finds out she has very neat handwriting and he didn't expect that. As he puts down the journal, he hopes that he made the right decision. Cuts to the next day. I come outside to see Mr. Lee waiting outside, and he insists that I need to train with these sandbags starting today. And we see 3 piles, each being 15 kilograms, 75 kilograms, and 150 kilograms. Mr. Lee tells me I can start from the lightest, but I accidentally strap on the heaviest ones first. He spits out and tells me to wait a second and asks if it is okay for you to wear them. But I tell him I don't feel anything. He says this is good, as I can match his record when he trained back in the old days. Though he has been stuck at 15 kilos for several years, I interrupt his thoughts, asking if I can address him as my master, as I am willing to do that. However, this makes Mr. Lee convinced he didn't make a wrong decision to train me. He tosses me a dull sword and says there is no need to rush into that yet, and he needs me to take a quiz first, then casually say to swing the sword 1,000 times with full effort and feel the change in my muscles. This instantly breaks my mood. As I swing the sword, the man explains that one cannot become a real martial artist if he can't even perfectly control his body. Then what kind of person do you think can be considered as a strong man? He asks me. I stare at the sword and explain that some are strong enough to ignore the rules and those can be considered strong. The old man gathers energy around him and asks how I plan to become one of those people, as he grabs a leaf and slashes it right at the ground, cutting right through hard dirt and stone brick wall, leaving a thin cut behind. I think this is the intent of the sword. The old man smirks and thinks that now I know what he is capable of now. Mr. Lee explains that when you strike, you're confident that you can cut through the sky, and that's the essence, and you need to experience and practice on that. Though I ask the old man if he can take me as a disciple, as I can't let go of such a great opportunity. He asks, when I have great power someday, will I be willing to take greater responsibility? But I simply respond with no, and explain that my responsibility is to survive and take good care of Lu Xiaoyu.